Well, hello again. This lesson is about the ontology of Eastern philosophies. I'll share with you my screen, so I'll be changing some images, and we will keep on using the prezi we started with this semester. So, this is the summary of the things we have to see in this 10-minute video. They are the main philosophies of ontological perspectives we know of since the ancient traditions, and I'll go one by one. Let's start with Confucius. Confucius is probably best known for a quote that we all repeat without knowing its true origins. It is mentioned in the Analects. It's probably a traditional Chinese quote whatsoever. Confucius just uses it to explain his ideas about what things are. What Confucius thinks is reality as a whole is governed by politics. So if you want the world to treat you as a father or as a taking care figure, you should treat others the same way. Macrocosmos, what the Greeks say, tends to treat the microcosmos in the same way you treat it with respect or love. So Confucius says, reality exists in a sense that only you understand. You can understand this sense of reality if you pay attention to other things. The way the sky treats people is the way the governor should treat the governed, and such and such and such. The way the king treats his people is the same way a father should treat his son or his daughter. So that's the way life tends to be. What things are a natural tendency to follow hierarchies. So you have to respect them. And that's why this quote explains Confucianism. Okay. Next one we have to see is the story of Siddhartha Gautama. We already talked about it a little bit in class. Siddhartha Gautama was a prince, and as a prince, he never left his castle. At the age of 26, he left his castle and found three people. He found three persons. One of them was old, one of them was sick, and one of them was dead. He realizes then that all the time he's been in his castle, he's lived a lie. The life is pain. That existence is a constant experience of suffering. So he abandons his castle, he abandons his title as a prince, and goes on to meditate for a while until he achieves this position under a cherry tree, and he attains nirvana, the realization that in fact all of reality is an illusion. There is no such thing as pain. There is only the ego. There is only the way you understand things. Once you get rid of that, you get rid of the illusion and of pain. Siddhartha made a whole religion that's called Buddhism. Buddha means the enlightened one. They come from the ancient Indian tradition of Hinduism. So they believe in the chakras, they believe in a multitude of gods, and they believe that there are certain things you have to deal with in order to open your chakras, and some things you do not need to deal with because they block your chakras. So we have here a chart that explains the order of the chakras. There are 7 that are put in your body from the center of your spine to the top of your head. And that's the way Siddhartha Gautama rolls. He explains these things through his realization that everything is a lie. There is nothing real. There is only an illusion. Okay. The next one we have to see is my personal favorite. It's Taoism. Taoism is the idea that there exists a natural order to things that governs everything, that is everywhere, and that way is called Tao. Tao literally means the way. Tao is made of 2 forces, the yin and the yang. The yin is the feminine, the passive one. The yang is the masculine, the aggressive one. And these 2 forces are one and the same. They are both Tao, but they deal in different gradients. So according to the amount of yin or the amount of yang something has, it tends to work in a certain way. For example, if you look at the sky, it has 3 straight lines because that's the pure yin, the pure feminine, the pure abstraction. There is nothing more abstract than the sky. If you look down below, you got the 3 broken ones. Those are yang. Those are the strongest things. There is nothing more real and more masculine and more aggressive than the earth because it exists, it's solid. And their various combinations create various elements. Now, Taoists have this idea of explaining everything through Tao. Since everything is Tao, then we need to know Tao to explain politics, explain ethics, explain reality. Tao, the word Tao in Chinese is written with this character. It is made by 2 radicals, the radical of head, this one here, and the radical of foot, this one here. What it literally means is you can only know the path when you walk it. So you cannot talk of Tao, you cannot know Tao, you cannot put a label and the name on it. You can only experience it. You can only walk through the path, because a path is made once you walk it. There is no path if you don't think and use your feet. If you don't use your feet to think. So Tao deserves its own video, but just know the ontology of it is that one. There is only a primal force called Tao that creates yin and yang, and that makes the relationships among everything and everybody. Next one we have to talk about is Native Americans' view. That is not exactly Eastern, but we'll treat it as an Eastern philosophy because it is not regarded common philosophy, common Western philosophy. There is a person named Luther Standing Bear. His real name was Standing Bear, but he got baptized to learn English, to write and pass on his knowledge. Luther wrote to us the way that the Native Americans understood the world. That particular view of the world is called animism. They believe that everything is alive. And those of you who have seen Pocahontas probably know the song Colors in the Wind, which I will put briefly here. I'm sorry, that's not it. So these are the lyrics of the first part of Colors of the Wind. Notice that it says, every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. When you see it in Pocahontas, Pocahontas explains to Adam Smith, I believe is his name, that there is no reason to see yourself as different from reality. You are just as valuable as the sky. You're just as valuable as the wind, because you all share an essence, a soul. That's why it's called animism. Anima means soul in Latin. And Pocahontas is trying to explain to Jan Smith that whenever you distance yourself from reality, you become an ignorant being. You become a person who only relates to people that look like yourself. So you need to step away from those ideas of separation and become one with the world again. The idea of totems, the idea of animal guides, the idea of having a spirit animal that dictates your behavior comes directly from the Native Americans' ontology. So it's curious, it's pretty, it's not exactly Eastern, but it's not usually treated as philosophy. That's why we are using it in here as an example. Then we got the original monotheistic view of reality, which is originally Jewish, and it will be evolved into Christianity and then to Islam, to Muslim culture. The Jewish belief that God exists as an all-powerful force that is personal, has certain desires, certain wishes, has a possibility of creation, it's a creative being. It is sort of like a person. It's not exactly a person, but it's sort of like a person in that it has a personality. It desires some things, it loves some things, it hates some things. The way the traditional Jewish mysticism treats it is through Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the study of the properties of God and the relationships it has to reality in itself. For traditional Kabbalah, the way the language is made has certain magic to it, has a certain meaning. And those relationships are distributed here. This is the tree of life, the tree of the Sephirot. And it explains what letters relate to what attributes of God and what's the relationship between them. The way they see the world, or the way they understand reality, is the way in which everything is connected through certain virtues and certain properties that are divine. When God makes you at his image and resemblance, he is creating you like this. He's creating you with freedom to move between these virtues and these qualities. Now, Islam is going to be the newest form of this tradition. They believe in the Old Testament, they believe in the New Testament, and they believe in the Quran. So they have a basis of this, but they extend it to other principles of religion. So they apply the exact same basis, but to different aspects. Finally, we got more traditional ancient ontological views of polytheisms. My examples here are the Egyptians, because they are mostly known for their pyramids and Anubis and the gods of life, the sun, and all those things. But since we were talking about Siddhartha, I think it's pertinent to talk about Hinduism. Hinduism has a multitude of gods. And the way they explain it is through the myth of Krishna. Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu, who is also Krishna. Krishna is at the top and at the bottom. Krishna is everything, but he becomes human to help us. He is all-powerful, but he becomes a limited body to show us the way. In here, you can see Krishna showing to his best friend Arjuna before a battle how Krishna is everything. He knows a person that's blue, but that just means that he is made a physical body. He is everything, and that is why every single god in the Indian tradition has the same face, because they are all Krishna. And since they are all Krishna, they all participate of the same essence. That polytheistic view explains that there are only certain qualities and certain virtues of the power that can be named, but they are all consumed in the exact same sphere of existence. So when the Greeks say that they got to live in Mount Olympus, they literally mean they live in Mount Olympus and they share existence with them. That's why they influence, for example, the war in Troy in the Odyssey or elsewhere. And I think that's about it. Just so you